And here he comes again off the turnover, and he slams it home! Outstanding girls basketball matchup between the team on top. To the forehead, he scores!
Good afternoon and welcome to Unscripted here with Skood Sports. I'm John Skudris, getting set to bring you all the sports that fit in to one video. It's a beautiful Wednesday, August 1st, as we are now through July, which means we are through the MLB Trading Deadline. Always an exciting time for baseball fans. A ton of action yesterday on Tuesday as the trade deadline did pass at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. The Philadelphia Phillies making a couple of moves, acquiring Wilson Ramos, the all-star catcher for the American League from the Tampa Bay Rays. Ramos is currently on the DL, but he should be back in time for a September postseason run. He is a veteran catcher who, while he has had a lot of injury problems in the past, certainly knows how to hit the baseball. And he's a guy the Phillies wanted to bring in, along with his Drupal Cabrera last week, a veteran infielder slash catcher who can get the job done when it matters. He's been there. He's been in the postseason with the Washington Nationals. And so he's the type of guy that Matt Klentak and Gabe Kapler wanted to bring in to push some of the young guys and also help them here moving forward in 2018 into 2019. Phillies currently sitting a half a game up in first place over the Atlanta Braves thanks to a two-game split with the Boston Red Sox. On Monday, the Phillies got an all-star performance out of their lone all-star, Aaron Nola, who ended up tossing 8 brilliant innings and unfortunately got a no decision, as the Phillies were unable to solve left-hander David Price before Luis Garcia ultimately gave up a walk-off ground rule double to Blake Swihart in the 13th inning. Last night, things, well, they went the Phillies' way. In similar fashion, a tight game throughout, but Jake Arrieta showed why. The Phillies gave him over $20 million a year for 3 years to come to the city of brotherly love from Chicago. Jake went 7 brilliant innings, giving up just the 1 run. He was outstanding, striking out 7 over that time frame. Meanwhile, the Phillies' offense was led by Jorge Alfaro, the catcher who may lose playing time to Ramos once the All-Star is back from his injury later on this season. So maybe that is something that the Phillies were hoping to do to Alfaro, who's been okay as a batter, but nothing special, with a very poor walk-to-strikeout ratio. But maybe lighting a fire under his backside with a pickup of Wilson Ramos may help the Phillies in the short term, just as Ramos will once he comes back in the long term. So the Phillies get the split 1-1 with the Boston Red Sox, winning 3-1 yesterday. An exciting 9th inning for the Phillies, with Sir Anthony Dominguez coming in and striking out 2, and including Brock Holt looking to end the baseball game. Concerns for the Red Sox going forward here now. The team with the best record in baseball did salvage a split at home, but now they're going into a 4-game series against the New York Yankees, a team they lead by a handful of games in the American League East. But Chris Sale, yesterday it was announced that he is headed to the 10-day DL. The management and Sale himself said it's more of just a soreness thing due to a change in his grip on one of his pitches, but it is still a concern for the Red Sox, who are already looking at a tenuous starting pitching depth, as they had already lost Eduardo Rodriguez to the DL and now Chris Sale to the 10-day DL. Only expected to miss a rotation start or 2, but still something of concern. And because of that, Brian Johnson will have to go in this series against the Yankees in what is a critical series for the Bronx Bombers, who are already without a couple of pieces in Gary Sanchez and Aaron Judge. And then it was announced today that the man they just picked up, Jay Happ, has hand, foot, and mouth disease, something I haven't heard of in about 20 years. But apparently it's making the rounds around Major League Baseball, and he may miss a start or 2 at least with that ailment. But the Red Sox not only losing Chris Sale last night in the 9th inning, Sir Anthony Dominguez plunking Xander Bogaerts on the wrist. That put that game in doubt, but the Phillies' right-hander was able to get the job done with the strikeouts of Holt, as I mentioned. But for Bogaerts, that's the same wrist he had issues with last year that caused him to miss some time. The X-rays were negative. The Red Sox say it's not too big of a concern, but Xander did say they have an off day today. We'll see how it goes from there. Never something you really want to hear from a guy who has had problems with that wrist in the past. But the Phillies able to get the victory, a big one, 3-1 on July 31st, as they not only pick up the win, but an all-star catcher in Wilson Ramos as well. Elsewhere around Major League Baseball, a cavalcade of moves on trade deadline day, including the Phillies' arch rivals and biggest competitor in the National League East. The Atlanta Braves made a move with the lowly Baltimore Orioles to bring in both Darren O'Day, the right-handed reliever, and Kevin Gausman, a right-handed starter. Gausman's a former top 10 draft pick of the Orioles who's really never lived up to the acclaim or potential, but he's the type of guy who maybe a move from the American League East to the National League East might benefit the most. A right-hander with not overpowering stuff, but he's a solid innings eater. Gausman's expected to slot right into the Atlanta rotation, a right-handed pickup that they desperately needed that goes along with Darren O'Day that fits into the back end of their bullpen. Atlanta's in a dogfight with the Phillies, and I think this is a solid move for them. Meanwhile, the Orioles picking up pitching prospects in return. Perhaps the largest move of the day came from the team on the other side of Pennsylvania, the Pittsburgh Pirates, who picked up right-hander Chris Archer from the Tampa Bay Rays. Archer coming over in exchange for a couple of prospects, and top prospects in that. Tyler Glasnow, a starting pitcher who has had a couple of cups of coffee in the big leagues, a highly acclaimed and heralded pitcher who has been okay when he's gotten his chance to be called up, not overpowering. We'll see how he does in St. Petersburg. And Austin Meadows, the number 9 pick in the 2013 draft. Good pickup here. He's had a solid rookie campaign, Meadows has, for the Pirates. He goes down to Tampa Bay. That gives them 2 cost-controlled players that they can have now for the next 5 or 6 years before they hit free agency in exchange for Chris Archer, who is headed there shortly. So the Pirates pick up Archer to try to bolster their staff not only for the short term but also for next year. He is under contract beyond 2018. So we'll see whether or not Pittsburgh's gamble, trading away 2 of their top young players for Chris Archer, pays off in their chase for the NL Central crown. They've been one of the hottest teams, so why not make a move if you are Pittsburgh's director of player personnel, Neil Huntington? I think it is a very solid but gutsy gamble. Next up on Unscripted, as promised, going to be taking a look at the NFL, starting with our NFL season preview as we go game by game throughout the NFL and predict the outcomes of the 2018 season. Of course, 2017 was one of the greatest years of my life, one of the greatest years of any Philadelphian's life, as the Philadelphia Eagles finally brought home the Lombardi Trophy to the city of brotherly love. At the same time, the team they beat, the New England Patriots, are primed and ready for a repeat of their AFC Championship. After all, New England has been in at least the AFC Championship game every year, dating back to 2011. An incredible run for this organization. And as we take a look here at their schedule this year and my predictions for each game, as you see on your screen, I have the Patriots again winning the AFC East. They start out with a bit of a tough slate in their first couple of games as they host Deshaun Watson and the Houston Texans at Gillette Stadium. I have the Patriots picking that one up. In a rematch of the AFC Championship game from a year ago, I actually have the Patriots losing that one in Jacksonville. If you've followed the Patriots at all over the last couple of years, they usually get off to a bit of a tumultuous start, and then once they hit their stride, it's guns a-blazing the rest of the way, as Greg Hardy would say. I see them going to 1-1 before the battle of the Master and the Apprentice in Week 3 as Detroit's Matt Patricia brings his Lions into Ford Field to take on the Patriots. That's what I believe is the beginning of a nice little run for New England as they'll win 5 in a row, beating Detroit, Miami, Indianapolis, Andy Reid and the Chiefs at home, and then Chicago at Soldier Field. And then they go into a Monday night game at Buffalo. The Patriots always seem to have some sort of an issue with either Buffalo or Miami. They struggle on the road against these teams sometimes. I have Buffalo winning this Monday night primetime game in an upset. Patriots then come back to beat Aaron Rodgers at Foxborough against the Green Bay Packers before slipping up against the Tennessee Titans, another team they played in the playoffs last year. That's right, I have the Patriots losing both of their games to the teams they played in the AFC playoffs. That brings them into their bye week with a pretty sparkling record, just 3 losses on the schedule. They will then hit their stride following the bye week, beating down the hapless Jets in MetLife before holding on over Kirk Cousins and the Vikings at Foxborough. I mentioned the losses out in the division on the road. Miami, I think, takes one at home. They will end up splitting with the Patriots, and then the Patriots win their final 3 games. They always seem to handle Pittsburgh, whether it's a controversial call or just a dominant performance by Tom Brady. I think the Patriots will win that one on the road before they will take care of both the Bills and the Jets to finish the season. So as you see, I got them at 12-4 on the campaign. Good enough to win the AFC East yet again. Next up in our picks, we got the Miami Dolphins. See on your screen the Dolphins schedule right there. Getting off to a start at home down there from Sun Life Stadium against the Tennessee Titans. I see Tennessee taking care of business. Marcus Mariota has a pretty good offense with a new coach now. And I think that Tennessee is going to be a team to watch this year. Miami will bounce back with a couple of wins, one on the road at the Jets before taking down John Gruden and the Raiders at home. They'll then hit a tough stride, back-to-back tough games against New England and Cincinnati on the road. I see them losing both. They'll bounce back against Mitch Trubisky and the Bears before losing at home to the Lions and on the road on Thursday night to Deshaun Watson and the Houston Texans. Miami will hold fort at home against the Jets. The Jets probably the team here that I see falling into last place in the AFC East, even though any of the three teams not named the Patriots could do so. Aaron Rodgers and Green Bay will take care of business at home against Miami as the Dolphins head into their bye week off a loss. They'll bounce back at Indianapolis, a team that I just really don't see doing a whole lot this year with the Andrew Luck situation. I do like Frank Reich as a head coach, but I think much like Doug Peterson, his first year is not going to be the banner one. And then Miami's going to get on a bit of a hot streak for a couple of weeks, beating down Buffalo and New England in the division. That'll put them at 7-6 and give Miami fans a hope that maybe they'll sneak into the playoffs just like they did in 2016. But I do not foresee that being the case because a tough schedule in week 15, 16, and 17. I have them losing all three of those games on the road to Minnesota, at home against Jacksonville, and then again on the road in frosty Buffalo, as it will be at the end of December. That puts Miami at 7-9, which, as you can see, I have good enough for second place in the AFC East. Next up on the slate is the Buffalo Bills. And the Bills, of course, along with head coach Sean McDermott, a big year last year, getting to the postseason for the first time since 1999. That's right, since the new millennia. I was all of 11 years old the last time that Buffalo was in the postseason, so what a feat it was to get in, thanks in large part to the Bengals beating the Ravens in Week 17. And what better way to start the year for Buffalo than against those Baltimore Ravens? Unfortunately, I don't see this being a strong year for Buffalo. Bills' defense is solid, but a lot of question marks on offense, not only at quarterback where they brought in A.J. McCarron, who's never been a full-time starter, and drafted Josh Allen, who's expected to be the most unready, most project-type quarterback of anybody drafted in the first round. And then you look at the rest of their schedule here. They lose to Baltimore with LaShawn McCoy having those potential legal issues. I think that could rear its ugly head. They'll beat the Chargers at home before going on a tough run until their bye week, losing, really, look at this schedule. At Minnesota, at Green Bay. I think they'll actually hold fort at home against the Tennessee Titans, but then at Houston, at Indianapolis, and then at home again against New England. I see them picking off a couple of those games against teams they probably won't be favored against, such as Tennessee and New England. But there's a real possibility that if Buffalo doesn't win one of those first two games against the Ravens or the Chargers, they could end up being 0-8 heading into their Week 9 game against Chicago. A game I actually see them losing because I think the Bears are going to be a little bit better this year. They got Mitch Trubisky, a lot of weapons. If they can finally sign Roquan Smith, we'll have more on that when we get to the Chicago Bears later on in the month. But I think that the Bears win that one before the Jets beat Buffalo at home as well. Bills head into their bye week really reeling with just 3 wins, but they bounce back towards the end of the year, probably to maybe save Sean McDermott's job. I don't know how tenuous it would be if he went something like 3-13, 4-12, but they beat Jacksonville, lose to Miami, beat the Jets, lose to Detroit, lose to New England, and then beat Miami to split with the Dolphins at the end of the year. That's good enough. 4-6-10, losing all 4 of their out-of-conference games. I think the AFC North is a really good division this year. I think that any of those 4 teams could compete for a playoff spot, and so I think Buffalo and the rest of the AFC East outside of the Patriots are going to have some real problems with it. But you see they're 6-10 for the Buffalo Bills. Player to watch there is, of course, A.J. McCarron. How does he perform? Because I think he's going to be the starter for the most of this season. They're not going to want to force Josh Allen out there. Now, to be fair, if they are, like I have in this, 3-7 or 3-8 heading into their bye week, then I could see Allen coming on in. But up until that point, A.J. McCarron, the former Alabama national champion, is going to be the man to count on and rely on in Buffalo. And finally, bringing up the rear of the AFC East in my predictions in 2018, I have the New York Football Jets. Well, it's been a tough couple of years for the Jets. Todd Bowles still has his job, but I think he'll lose it after 2018. The biggest reason he still has the job is because he went 10-6 back in 2015. Didn't make the playoffs due to a tiebreaker, but he beat the Patriots once that year. He's given them good games over his career, but I think this year is going to be the death knell for him. The Jets have Josh McCown at quarterback. They also have Teddy Bridgewater in there, and, of course, their top 5 pick, Sam Darnold, who I think is going to see legitimate playing time towards the second half of the season. You look at the schedule, it gets off to what shouldn't be that tough of a start. If the Jets can end up picking off a couple of these early games that I don't see them winning, then maybe they will move up to a 7-9, 8-8 type campaign. They're at Detroit on Monday night to start the year. I see Matt Patricia getting off to a good start there. The Dolphins I can see going into New York in September. If it was in December, I may feel differently. Cleveland, I think, is a much improved team this year. They have to be. They didn't win a single game last year and brought in a lot of big offensive production players. I think they'll win that Thursday night battle. Jacksonville's going to take care of business to send the Jets to 0-4 after September. October's going to be a good month for the Jets, though, as they're going to pick off a couple of home wins against the Denver Broncos and Kirk Cousins and the Indianapolis Colts and Jacoby Brissett or Andrew Luck, who the heck knows. That'll improve them to 2-4 before a loss against a very good Minnesota team sends them to 2-5. They'll continue reeling on the road against Chicago and Miami, moving to 2-7 before beating Buffalo at home to go to 3-7 heading into their Week 11 bye week. A loss to the New England Patriots at home shouldn't be a surprise, nor should road losses to Tennessee and Buffalo. I do have an upset victory over the Houston Texans on my slate in Week 15. That's a Saturday game, and that's around the time that I think Sam Darnold will finally be hitting his stride. He'll probably get the start if this prediction holds to forth. Then after that bye week, he'll probably be the starter, and I could totally see him, after a couple of tough losses, getting a big banner rookie win against the Houston Texans, and then I see them losing those last 2 games against Green Bay and New England. I mean, really, look at the second half of that schedule. If the Jets don't get off to a solid start, at least 2-2, they're going to have a hard time getting more than 5 wins because their early games are easier, clearly, than the second half of their schedule. Outside of their division, after Week 6, they play Minnesota, Chicago, Tennessee, Houston, and Green Bay. And in the division, they have to play New England twice. I mean, that's really difficult for a team starting, most likely at that part of the year, a rookie quarterback. So for the Jets, I like some of their pieces. I think that this is going to be the end for Todd Bowles, though, and a 4-12 campaign is what I foresee for the Jets. Jets. Finally, recapping the division, as you see, the New England Patriots 12-4, winning the division 7-9. The Miami Dolphins, Buffalo 6-10, and the Jets 4-12. Really not a far cry from what it's been in the AFC East over the past 2 decades. A New England Patriot, Brady Belichick dominated division, and that's what I foresee in 2018 at least. 2019 and beyond, it's really anyone's say. Who knows what Miami's going to do at quarterback? If Ryan Tannehill with a 7-9 campaign would really hold forth there, I'm not sure. And Buffalo and New York, of course, have young guys that they are grooming in their rookie campaigns. But in 2018 at least, it still remains the Patriots' division to lose, one that I don't think they will, as they will, with the 12-4 record, most likely get a bye, I would think, but I have not done the full season's predictions quite yet. That's coming up over the course of the next month or so. As always, thank you for tuning in to Unscripted here with Skood Sports. We had a big episode today recapping the MLB Trade Deadline, the Phillies series against the Red Sox. They'll get set to take on the Miami Marlins back at Citizens Bank Park for 4. Phillies with one of the best home records in baseball, so we hope that they can take care of business, create a little separation between them and the Atlanta Braves. And of course, we looked at the AFC East and predicted every single game of the schedule for those teams. Next time out on Unscripted with Skood Sports, we'll be taking a look at the AFC North, one of the most competitive divisions in football every year. Is it Big Ben and Pittsburgh's division again, or will one of their other competitors, the Baltimore Ravens, Cincinnati Bengals, or the much potentially improved Cleveland Browns, take the reins in 2018? We'll go game by game and predict that next time on Skood Sports. In the meantime, like, share, and subscribe. Let your friends know to tune in, get all the information on Philadelphia sports and beyond, and all the sports that fit in to one video. Until next time, good night, good luck, and good sports. I'm John Skudris. This has been Unscripted with Skood Sports.
Outstanding girls basketball matchup between on top to the forehead. And here he comes again off the turnover, and he slams it home.